The first review of our new domestic abuse laws has found that police officers and prosecutors are working well together to make it effective. The laws came into effect 2 years ago. This is the first time that the Criminal Justice Inspectorate have looked at how successfully or not they're being put into action by the bodies who use them. That's like the PSNI, the PPS and Northern Ireland Courts and Tribunal Service. Jacqui Durkin is the Chief Inspector of the Criminal Justice Inspectorate here. Jacqui, thank you very much for being with us. Just remind us what changed with the new legislation, why it was brought in.
Good morning, Sarah and Mark. Well, the new legislation created an offence of domestic abuse in Northern Ireland, and that was really important in bringing us in line with the rest of the UK. And what it meant was that attached to that legislation were a number of aggravators, which meant that if that domestic abuse occurred in a home where children were present, then there could be an aggravator attached to the domestic abuse offence, or if there was another offence committed, then an aggravator that an offence was committed in the domestic setting could make sure that a judge, if it was brought to his attention by the prosecutor, could consider he or she could consider an enhanced sentence because it was carried out in a domestic setting. So huge importance, this legislation, really important that it is implemented properly. A lot of good work had been done to prepare for it and to train prosecutors and police officers and other criminal justice sector professionals to do that. But some recommendations here for improvement to make sure that it is used the way it was intended.
We'll talk about that in a moment. I mean, it's important to point out that in September of last year, the last figures that I saw for arrests around this as a result of these new laws, and it was something like 1,300. It was really quite a significant number of arrests. And when the latest police figures came out around domestic abuse incidents about a month ago, they are slightly up, but not that much. They show a decrease of 7% in domestic abuse crimes. So, you've got numbers of incidents and then you've got numbers of crimes. I guess it's maybe too soon to tell whether or not that's the new laws coming into effect or not. But what you've found, or at least one of the things that you found, Jacqui, is that actually the police have embraced this pretty well, as have the Public Prosecution Service.
Yes, I mean, there was statutory guidance developed, led by the Department of Justice. And what we found was that had included voluntary and community sector input into that statutory guidance. But what we found, there was a lack of awareness where there should have been about it and how it would be used. And we did find that there had been comprehensive training carried out, including involving voluntary and community sector organisations with prosecutors and with police officers. But there's a real opportunity to make sure that the effect of the Act and the powers of the Act were used properly. And that was making sure that those aggravators where they could be applied were applied in every relevant case. And you're right, it's since the Act was implemented in 2022, we've certainly seen there's no I don't think it's a meaningful decrease in figures. We want to make sure that victims of domestic abuse know that they can come forward and report it, and that they will be heard and listened to, and also that their children, if they are present, that there are protections available for them.
So you've made 11 recommendations. There are areas definitely needing improvement. And what's interesting is that you're going to be looking into this every couple of years, aren't you, to see how it's going to continuously review it. So what areas need improving?
Well, as I said, we've made 11 recommendations, and the two strategic recommendations include Operation Encompass, and that's where the police will advise at school if a child is going into school the day after a domestic abuse incident in the home, that they get access to support where they need it. And that's really important, that there's good communication right across Northern Ireland. So we've recommended a protocol between the police service and the education authority to do that and make sure that Operation Encompass is as effective as it can be.
That is happening already though, right?
It is. It's rolled out across every school in Northern Ireland, and the latest figures were there were about 15,000 times where the police had contacted a school to say this child is coming into school, may be tired, may be hungry, may be upset, and make sure that pastoral care and support's available to that child.
15,000 times?
Yes. that's the latest figures that we've had from the police service.
In what period of time?
Since the pilot was commenced and rolled out. So it's rolled out in all schools from May 23. So that would be a cumulative effect, Sarah.
So in less than a year, 15,000 times the police have contacted schools to say you need to watch out for this child in the morning.
It would be longer than that, Sarah, because the pilot was commenced in South Down some time ago.
Does that seem high to you? Does that seem like a lot?
Well, it is a lot, but unfortunately I'm not surprised about it, because when you talked about domestic abuse crimes, we know in 22-23 there were over 22,000 occasions when the police were involved in reports of domestic abuse crimes. We know that there were 916 cases that were brought under the new legislation. So unfortunately, yes, it's awful that it is so high, but what's really important is that children who are experiencing domestic abuse in their home, that they do get that support when they go into school the next day, and beyond that, if they have needs, to be supported throughout that. Another key recommendation...
Just quickly, if you could.
Yes, of course. Another key recommendation is really important about that effective collaboration. It's at the centre of how this new legislation is used to prosecute offenders and support victims and children. So we want to make sure that victims aren't put off by coming forward. Domestic abuse is a crime, and it will be dealt with robustly in Northern Ireland.
All right. Is there an issue with delayed police response to emergency incidents?
What we found was that the police had triaged, at call management, had triaged cases really well, but sometimes the response to it could have been quicker and could have had a quicker response to that. And the police have accepted those recommendations and are looking at that.
Thanks very much indeed. Jacqui Durkin, Chief Inspector of Criminal Justice here.
Thank you.